can record now. Yesterday's meeting, we recorded on local computer or on the cloud. And it recorded it in 4 different options. So you could see the gallery view, you could see just you could see the Gemara. And this way you can go back to see who's falling asleep, who's not. Imagine if they had this. Cool. There we go. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this week's broadcasts are sponsored by Shaya and Rivka Weiss in honor of the upcoming wedding of their son Moshe to Sarah Salzbank in Long Island this coming Thursday. It may take place Be'itoi, Bizmanoi, Ufim Koimoi. And today's broadcast is also co-sponsored by Reb David and Chani Dayan, Little Nishmas, David's grandmother, Raina Bas Avram. Allah Shalom, who's yours today, Vav Tammuz. May the Neshama have an aliyah. Today is also the baby anniversary of Victory and Tebi. Today was the day that we did it.
Is the Hebrew date?
Correct.
Yeah, the English date was July 4th.
That's right. I still remember coming to shul. It was a Shabbos morning, Friday night. I still remember coming to shul that day. I don't know if you remember in the Agudah, the entrance used to be right overlooking the parking lot, which is where today's Besmedrash is. And there were windows looking out to the parking lot. So I remember there was a whole kipka of people tumbling about what happened the night before, that they saw on the Toronto Star, that it was delivered to them before they got the shul. Okay, let's see the Heilig Gemara weiter.
It didn't happen over a Motzei Shabbos, Yossi?
No, I thought it happened Friday night. I think it happened on a Friday night Shabbos day. Like they came back, they flew back.
It was Sunday morning, but they arrived back Sunday morning. I think they arrived back Sunday morning. Maybe it was Shabbos morning. Maybe you're right. I found out, but I remember Sunday morning coming home from.
Because you weren't in Agudah then.
No, but I was in Yesodei Torah. Oh. I seem to remember that. Maybe the Agudah knew about it in advance.
Could be. Could be. They were in the mikveh. They knew from the mikveh what was going to happen. Okay, let's see the Heilig Gemara. We'll have to look it up later. Okay. If a Victor was here, he would look it up for us. Okay, so we learned about the concept of dressing appropriately, right? There was the Saul Korman factor yesterday, that a person has to be dressed for the occasion. Because by the Kohanim, when they did the Chois Hadeshen, they didn't wear the same clothing that they did Avodah in. Rather, they changed their clothing because it's not appropriate that the cook and the waiter wear the same clothing. In the kitchen, the cook might wear cook's clothing with an apron, but the waiter comes out with a tuxedo. And who didn't what they avoided, that's how it's supposed to be. Ganai hu the Talmid Chocohom. It's a ganai for Talmid Chocohom to go out with patched shoes. In fact, how can you say that? For Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, Nofik, he used to wear patched shoes. Or Rabbi Acha bar of Nachman, no, what we mean is b'taloi al gab b'taloi. When we say a patch, we mean a double patch. A single patch, that's normal. It's a double patch, that's not appropriate. Talmid Chocohom, shenimtza revav al bigdoi. A Talmid Chocohom who a revav is found on his beged, and Rashi says a revav is a grease thing, shuman v'chelev. Chayiv misa. His chayiv misa. Rashi says tzarich liyos choshuv v'hagen l'chvay terasai. He has to walk around in a respectable fashion. Shenemar kol misanai avim mavos. All those who hate me love death. But we darshan al tukei misanai elam masniai. Those who make me hated. If people see, Rashi says beautifully, people see that Talmid Chocohom are not dressed respectably. Shemamasin atman b'nei abriyos, v'abriyos oimrim oy lahem l'loim de haTorah shemausin umagunim nimtzezeh masnei haTorah. If people say, look at the Talmid Chocohom, he has dandruff all over his collar. It's disgusting. That's inappropriate. Ravina Amar Reved. What does Reved mean? Rashi doesn't mean Shechva Zera. And he brings a right from Psukim and Mishlei. So if he has that on his beged, that's what we're referring to is inappropriate. Revid Itmar. They're not arguing if it's grease or if it's Zera. The outer clothing that people see all the time, there even grease is a problem. The inner clothing that people don't always see, there only Zera is a problem, but regular dirt would not be a problem. It says in the Pasuk, the Rebbe Shem told Yeshayahu, the Navi, Kasher Abdi Yeshayahu, Orim barefoot, Orim naked, the Yachav and barefoot. So what does that mean? How you talking that Yeshayahu was told to walk around naked on the street? This wasn't the Black Lives Matter protest or a pride parade. The Gemara, what it means is Orim bebegadim bluyim, with torn, worn out clothing. That's what the Rebbe Shem told Yeshayahu to walk around with. The Yachav, not really barefoot, but with patched shoes. Non Hasam. Revav al Hamardeya Chotes. In Mukvoyis, where we're talking about what's a chatzitza, l'gabi toiveling it, this cloth that was put on top of the donkey, if it had grease on it, that grease would be a chatzitza, and you wouldn't be able to toivel it. Now we know normally by chatzitza mid'oraisa, it's only chatzitza if it's on roiv, the beged, and a person is makbid on it. But midrabanan, we also say it's a chatzitza if it's miut umakbid olav or roiv ein umakbid olav. So we're discussing here miut umakbid olav. It's a small stain, but it's something that people would normally not allow to remain. So if you had a stain of grease on this mardeya, chotzitza would be a chatzitza. It has to be at least the size of an iser hartaki. Smaller than that, there would not be a hakbad and there wouldn't be chotzitza. What about clothing that a human wears? If there's only a stain on one side, it won't be chotzitza. If the stain seeped all the way through, that it's now visible on the other side, then chotzitza will be chotzitza. Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Shmuel, af mitzad echad chotzitza. On clothing, even if it's only dirty on one side, people would be makbid, and that would be a chotzitza. Mardas.
Yossi, sorry to trouble you. You're not sharing your screen, the Gemara?
I think it looks like it's being shared. It's showing,
Yeah,
by me it's showing that it's shared.
I'm seeing it.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Akiva, can you see it now?
No.
That's strange. Can anybody else see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead. I'll figure
Oh,
it out.
I didn't see a Victor before. Victor, what day was the Entevi? The Entevi, was it a Sunday or Shabbos? Who remembers?
That's your homework for tonight.
I remember that. I thought it was a Shabbos, but Akiva remembers it as a Sunday.
No, it was in Eretz Yisrael, so I think it was on Motzi. They flew out on Friday night. That I think I remember. And
It's a 7-hour flight. So if they flew it on Friday night, then they arrived early Shabbos morning. That means the attack was Shabbos morning.
Right. So the Toronto Star, unless it was a late edition.
Yeah, but you're right. You couldn't have heard about it Shabbos morning in shul.
That's what I mean. I think it was Sunday morning. Yeah. So you went to Minyan just like your son goes to Minyan Sunday morning, and you found out about it Sunday.
No, because we're 7 hours later. By the time our Sunday morning happens, by the time our Shabbos morning happens, it's already Shabbos afternoon in Israel. So it is possible that the news came back already. It just wasn't in the Toronto Star.
There was no internet back then.
Yeah, but there was a Toronto Star 4-star edition that came out in the afternoon.
There was, really?
Yeah, there was second and third publications.
But maybe someone heard it on the radio. Could be people were walking to shul.
Yeah, people were listening.
Noam told them about it
radios
because everybody, the whole world was talking about it.
Right.
But it would have been public by the time we came to shul. Don't forget, Agudah used to start at 9:30 in those days.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's see where we're holding.
We'll discuss afterwards. That became a big point of contention between Lubavitch and Satmar and Tebi.
Or whether that was my Sutton or my
Yeah.
Sakas Baruch Hu.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to do that. So the good one.
Okay.
Okay. Sagt Gemara, Rabbi Gifter Rabbi Shimon b'Shmuel, Af mitzad echad choytz. Boy min Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Chanina. Mardas. What about this cloth for the donkey? Mitzad echad oy mishnei tzaddim. So let's stop a second. We learned earlier. Mardas is choytz from Shimon Milamer at Kisher Talki, but it doesn't say if it's both sides or not. So here we have a shaila. Mardas mitzad echad oy mishnei tzaddim. Amalei zulay shemati. I didn't hear halacha beferish discussing whether or not the stain in a mardas, if it's enough on one side. But keyoytze b'shemati, I heard something similar that will help us understand what is the halacha by mardas. The Tnan Rabbi Yossi Yomer shel banoin, clothing that belongs to banoin, builders, and we'll see what that means shortly. Mitzad echad, even a stain on one side is going to be a chatzitza. V'shel bor, if it's avanam haaretz, then mishnei tzaddim. Unless it's mishnei tzaddim, it's not yet a chatzitza. V'lo yisehei mardas chashuva mibigdei shalom haaretz. It doesn't make sense to say that if on a beged that Amoritz wears, in order for the stain to be a chatzitza, it has to come through on both sides. That doesn't make sense to say that if it's a beged that only an animal wears, that if the stain is only on one side, it should be a chatzitza. So the svara is that the mardas, which is a beged that's put on the chamar, would only be a chatzitza if the stain came through on both sides, similar to the beged of an Amoritz. Now let's go back to what banoin are. It says a banoin, if the stain is only on one side, it'll be a chatzitza. My banoin. Rabbi Yochanan, elu Talmid Chocohom she'oshkin b'binyanei shalolim. Kol yemim. They're busy. A Talmid Chocohom is busy building the world. How is that? Well, how is a Talmid Chocohom a builder? So there's a bunch of different pshatim. There's one pshat. It says estakel b'raisa bar Oma. The blueprint for the world is the Torah. The Talmid Chocohom know very well how to read the blueprints. So they're builders because they know how to read the blueprints. But the Satmar Rebbe says that we all know that L'Asad Lovai, the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi, is going to come down ready-made, prefabbed, straight from Victoria Lakes. I mean, straight from Shemaim, the Beis HaMikdash will be prefabbed. Who's building it? It's the Talmid Chocohom that are learning Torah. They're building the Beis HaMikdash brick by brick, and when it will be ready, the Rebbeinu Shalom will bring it out. How does one qualify as a Talmid Chocohom? Shemachzir in loy aveda b'tfias ayin. The halach is everybody else, if they lose an aveda and they want to claim it from the person who found it, they have to give a siman uvak. They have to provide a siman. A Talmid Chocohom could just look at it and say, you know what? This looks like it's mine. And that's enough, since he's believed, that's enough to return the aveda. So when do you reach the point where you could just say, I recognize it, and la halacha, they can return the aveda to you? That's somebody zeham makbid al chalukai loipchoy. That's someone who's makbid on his beged loipchoy kishu hafach makbid alav v'hoipchoy shu makbid alav shaliu hatfir samagunesh. He's makbid not to wear any begadim inside out. He dresses properly. There's other Gemaras that say it's someone who never lies, and some Achronim say it means both. Some Rishonim holds it has to be both. There's two things that a Talmid Chocohom has to have in order that you should be able to give him back an aveda. The Ben Yehoyada says that this is even referring to his lower garments. Not only his coat would he not wear backwards, even his shirt, things that aren't so visible, even those he would be makbid on. From Rabbi Gifter, Talmid Chocohom shememan and oisei parnas al tzibur. What the Talmid Chocohom that they would appoint him to be a leader. It's it's a Talmid Chocohom who you could ask him from anywhere, and he'll be able to say. So the problem with this is this disqualifies every Litvish Rosh Yeshiva who only knows the first 8 blot of each Masechta. So the Chazon Ish comes to the rescue. And he says, it doesn't say, no, it's just v'omer, meaning if someone knows how to learn well, even though he didn't learn this, but he could, since he knows how to learn, he'll be able to figure out pshat in any situation and be able to adapt his knowledge to learn new things and to solve problems. That's good enough. But he doesn't really have to know kol Torah kula. Listen, I remember I heard Rabbi Gifter that I'll speak, and he said, a bocher gekommen to the Tolz Yeshiva, sich zu verheeren, reinkommen in der Yeshiva. Habe ich gefragt, der Bocher, nu, welche Mesechte hat ihr gelernt letztes Mal? Hat der Bocher mir gesagt, letztes Mal habe ich gelernt Meseches Kedushin. Habe ich ihm gefragt, a Gemorre in Meseches Kedushin, und hat das nicht gewusst. Guckt mich an, wo ich bin am Schugene. Wo da ist a Gemorre? Habe ich ihm gewissen, am vorische Gemorre, auf der letzte Ramit von Meseches Kedushin. Hat mir gesagt, ich habe das nicht gelernt. Habe ich ihm gefragt, aber du hast gesagt, also es gelernt letztes Mal, Meseches Kedushin. Hat mir gesagt, ja, wir haben gelernt, aber wir sind noch angekommen bis Daf Yud. Habe ich ihm gesagt, eben so bist du ein Ligner. Du hast nicht gelernt Meseches Kedushin letztes Mal. Du hast gelernt 8 Blatt von Meseches Kedushin letztes Mal. Sagt mir, he even has to be able to find his way around Meseches Kala. And there's a shadow what that means. If it's a last Mesechta, if it's certain halachas, but it means he knows everything. Rabbi Gifter, Talmid Chocohom shebnei Irai mitzuven lasses loy malachtoi. Who is a Talmid Chocohom that bnei Irai has to do his malacha? And Rashi tells us what is this? What are we talking about? In Yuma, the Gemara asks Astira. One pasuk says v'asisa l'cha aroinates, speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. V'chosavechad omer v'asu aroinas seishishtim. The klal should make it. So they learn from here that the klal is responsible to fill in the needs of the Talmid Chocohom. So who is the Talmid Chocohom who qualifies for that treatment? He abandons working to help support his family, and he's working on things for the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's working on communal things. He's entitled to get help. That doesn't mean you buy him a Lexus and a mansion and vacations. It means you give him enough to survive. That's what has to be given to him. Who is a Talmid Chocohom? What do I need to know if he's a Talmid Chocohom or not? So if someone roy to be made a rov, that's only if you can ask him anywhere I don't know. If only in the Masechta that he's in, he knows it thoroughly, then he could only be the local rabbi. But if you can ask him anything you want, and he'll know it well, then Beresh Mesifta, then you can even make him Rosh Hashiva. I guess that means for not only his city, but for all around. Abshum ben Lakish, Amar, Elu Kalim Ha'ulayrin Haboyin Midin Sayom. So he's going back on that we said, that a person, that we learned in the Brisa, the Banoin Mitzarechad, Banoin meaning a Talmid Chocohom. Even if he has a stain on the one side of his beged, it's still Chatitza. It's not speaking about any type of Kalim. It's speaking about Kalim Ulayrin. What are Ulayrin? Balonim, these are the bathhouse, the people who worked in the bathhouse. Shieshlem aluntios chashuvis, that beautiful, gishmake, fluffy bath towels. Lisatef bahen b'nei adam chashuvin b'tzeisam and amerchetz. So the chashuv people, when they came out of the mikveh, they'd have a big gishmake, thick, fluffy bath towel. Umakpinin al tinaf mat, and on those towels they were makbid even have a drop of dirt on them. Uvanoim loshem beimani. So with the type of clothing we're talking about, with the kelim holiron, haboyin b'b'nei sayom. So tomorrow, remember the chiyurininu. Are you saying that those towels were white? Well, Amalu Rabbi Yanai Levanov, Rabbi Yanai told his children, "Bana, my dear children, Al tikperuni, don't bury me loy b'kelim levanim, not in the white techrichim, for loy b'kelim shechorim, and not in black techrichim. Levanim, don't bury me in white techrichim. Shem loy eska. How do I know I'm going to make it to Olam Haba? Maybe I'll be in Gehenna. And if I'm wearing white clothing and I'm sitting amongst all these Rishoyim, I'll stick out like a sore thumb. Don't bury me in black, I might make it to Gan Eden. And I'll be the guy with the black suit, and when everyone around is wearing white, I'll stick out like a sore thumb. Just give me colored clothing that could be neutral. So what you see from here is the Ulayrin, Kalim, were in fact not white, they were colored. It depends what type of clothing. The outer clothing, which is the clothing that Rabbi Yana was talking about, those were taka colored, even the Ulayrin. But Levushi, the lower, the inner garments that came from B'nai Sayam, they were in fact white. So it's not a steer. This reminds me of the story, I've said it over, about this 95-year-old Hungarian Yid who was learning Ivrit. His wife asked him, we're not planning to move to Israel anytime soon. Why do you want to learn Ivrit? He says, I need to learn Ivrit because I'm not going to live forever. And if I die, what am I going to do if I find myself in Gan Eden? They probably speak Lashon Kodesh there. So I want to brush up on the Lashon Kodesh. So his wife says, and you're so sure you're going to Gan Eden? How do you not going to Gehenna? So he says, for Gehenna, I know Hungarian already. Rabbi Shmuel Eimer Mekaplan, you can fold your begotten. So let's see what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says you can fold from Shabbos, the Shabbos, but not from Shabbos to Yom Kippur. Tanrabon, and we had a machlokes in our Mishnah if you could fold from Shabbos to Yom Kippur or not. The Tanakama said, let's see it inside so we get clarity. The shaila was if Yom Kippur is on the same level as Shabbos, Rabbi Kiva holds that you're not allowed to fold not from Shabbos to Yom Kippur and not from Yom Kippur to Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel holds you could fold from Yom Kippur to Shabbos. So let's see what it says. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, the Kabbalas Akelim, Umatzinas Amidas, Yom Kippurim Shabbos, because he holds clearly that the Kedusha of Shabbos is greater than the Kedusha of Yom Kippurim. The Chalva Shabbos, Kareven B'Yom Kippurim, Avalosh Yom Kippur Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Loishal Shabbos, Kareven B'Yom Kippurim, V'Loishal Yom Kippur, Kareven B'Shabbos, because they're both of equal Kedusha, and you cannot be Makrav Chalavim from one to the next. So Zakta Hil Gemara. Tanarbon Oila Shabbos b'Shabbatoi. Lima teaches us Al Cheve Shabbos Shekreven b'Yom Kippurim that you can be maktir the Chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Kippur. And Rashi explains to us where this comes from, but we'll see in a second. It says Oila Shabbos Mashma Lemedrash. From Oila Shabbos b'Shabbatoi, there's an extra word here. There's an extra information here that we can use as a drasha. Beloivav, umashma the oil of Shabbos kreva b'Shabbos acheres. It's mashma the oil of one Shabbos. You could be makav on a different Shabbos, but not limit al chelva Shabbos. It teaches us the chelva Shabbos should kreva b'Yom Kippur. Yochel af shel Yom Kippurim b'Shabbos. You might think that you can also be makav chalavim that were left over from Yom Kippur onto Shabbos. So we're speaking about two different cases. When you're being makav chelav of Shabbos on Yom Kippur, it means Yom Kippur is on a Sunday. And the chalavim that were left over from Shabbos the day before, you could be makar for Yom Kippur. Yachal Avshei Makur Shabbos, meaning if Yom Kippur fell out on a Friday, and there's extra chalavim that needs to be makar on Shabbos, you don't do that. From the Vav, we learn that you could be that only on Shabbos could you be makar from another Shabbos or on Yom Kippur from Shabbos, but you can't be makar on Shabbos from Yom Kippur. Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Oile Shabbos b'Shabbatoi, Limed Achel b'Shabbos Shekreven b'Yom Tov. You only learn that you can be makriv chalavim of Shabbos and Yom Tov. So if Sukkos or Pesach fell out of the month of Shabbos, you could be makir the chalavim from Shabbos. Yochel af b'Yom Kippurim, you might think that on Yom Kippur you could also be makir leftovers from Shabbos. Talmid Omer b'Shabbatoi. So we need to understand exactly how to learn this pasuk of Oil Shabbos b'Shabbatoi and how you could understand it or interpret it in different ways, whether it's referring to Yom Tov, whether it's telling us you can't be maktir chalavim from Yom Tov on Shabbos, but you could be maktir chalavim from Shabbos and Yom Tov, or if it's referring to Yom Kippur. And that's what we need to figure out. So the Gemara wants to say as follows, because it would make sense to say that L'divei Rabbi Shmuel, according to Rabbi Shmuel, where he learns that you could be maktir from Shabbos on Yom Kippur, he would hold that the Dorim and the Dovis craven b'Yom Tov. you're allowed to be makriv personal nedarim and nedavis on Yom Tov. And therefore, v'chi itzrich kra, all we need a pasuk for is liyom kippurim. L'divrei Rabbi Akiva, nedarim and nedavis. Ain't craving b'Yom Tov. You're not allowed to be makriv nedarim and nedavis on Yom Tov. And then v'chi itzrich kra l'mishra b'Yom Tov. So let's see how this works. Why is there a connection between being makriv nedarim and nedavis on Yom Tov to this shaila of whether or not you can be makriv the chalavim of Yom Kippur on Shabbos? So Rashi says beautifully, plukti b'meseches beitza. There's a machlokes of meseches beitza whether or not personal nedarim and nedavis, if you're allowed to be makriv them on Yom Tov. I guess you're up there anyway. You're being oil regal. It's a convenient time. So can you be makriv it on Yom Tov, or do you have to wait till Chol Hamoed? Rabbi Shmuel Svirle, Rabbi Shmuel would hold, command them craven. He would hold that you're allowed to be makriv karbanos on Yom Tov. Hilchach, therefore, kivin the nedarim and nedavis. Sheyachal lahamtim l'shachtim b'choil ulakrivan, since the nedarim and nedavis, where technically you don't have to be makriv them on Yom Tov. You can wait until after Yom Tov be makriv them. Nevertheless, we allow you to be makriv them on Yom Tov. Nishchatim v'nekravim b'Yom Tov. He holds you're allowed to shech them and be makriv them on Yom Tov. So kal v'chomer b'chel v'Shabbos shenishchatu kedarkon bizmanon v'nitayshu. Surely, if Shabbos was erev Yom Tov, where you had to be makriv the specific korbanos that you're makriv on Shabbos, and you did everything the way you were supposed to, and now you have leftover chalavim on much of Shabbos, which is Yom Tov, that you weren't makriv yet on the mizbeach, for sure you should allow it. In other words, if discretional korbanos can be brought on Yom Tov, surely mandatory korbanos can be brought on Yom Tov. So if you allow nedarim and nedavis to be brought on Yom Tov, you for sure would be able to be maktir the chalavim left over from Shabbos on that Yom Tov. Hilchach lo yitzrich kra of oila Shabbos b'Shabbatoi ela liyom kippurim. The extra limud that we have from the pasuk of oila Shabbos b'Shabbatoi, I don't need it to teach me that you could be maktir the chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Tov, because I know that from the kal v'chomer of nedarim and nedavis. So therefore, from this extra pasuk, I learn that you could be maktir the chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Kippur, which is the shita of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva, on the other hand, held nedarim and nedavis ain't craving b'Yom Tov. You would not be able to be maktir nedarim and nedavis on Yom Tov. So how do I know, that you could be maktir the chalavim from Shabbos on Motzei Shabbos on Yom Tov? I would need a special pasuk for that. And therefore, I don't have an extra pasuk to tell me that I can be maktir the chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Kippur, because I need the pasuk that indicates that I can be maktir the chalavim of Shabbos on a regular Yom Tov. And that's where the Gemara wants to suggest the machlokes in our Mishnah comes from. Whether or not you have a pasuk to tell you that you can be maktir the chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Kippur depends on whether or not that pasuk is extra and whether or not you need it for the chalavim of Shabbos on a regular Yom Tov. Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera said, Ki havina beBavel, when I was in Bavel, Hava Amri, I used to say that Ha Tanya, this is what that it says in the Brisa, Yom Kippurim Shechol Yosh Erev Shabbos. Now we know that every Erev Shabbos they used to blow a whole bunch of tekiyos to indicate that Shabbos was coming. Now what happens if Yom Kippur came out on a Friday? So do you blow the shofars on that Erev Shabbos to indicate that Shabbos is coming? So the Brisa says, Lo Hayu Toikin. They would not blow. Uva Motzei Shabbos, and if Yom Kippur fell out on the Motzei Shabbos, Lo Hayu Mavdilin, they wouldn't make the Havdalah of being Kodesh LaKodesh. And Rashi says what we're talking about is B'tfilah. We don't make Havdalah ala Kodesh on Yom Kippur, but in the Tfilah, we don't say Hamavdil ben Kodesh LaKodesh. We don't say V'atoy Diyenu, K'moy Shem Avdilin B'yom Dev Shechal Yois B'motzei Shabbos. Because Yom Kippur is the same level of Kedusha as Shabbos. Yom Kippurim Shechal Yois Erev Shabbos, L'hoyu Toikin, V'motzei Shabbos Lo Yom Avdilin, Divrei HaKoilhi. I used to think that psak was a unimat. Yes.
Oh, sorry. We're talking about the time of the Beis Hamikdash taken, or no?
We're going to see soon that it was. This must be referring to the times of the Beis Hamikdash.
So there was tefillah in the time of the Beis Hamikdash?
Interesting. There must have been. There must have been, because tefillah. That's a good point.
By Shane.
By Shani?
By Shani, yeah, because there was Anshe Knesset Gdola were already Misakin in Bavel, so the tefillah came back with them for By Shani.
But weren't only misakin instead of the Korbanos?
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
it.
so now when they came back, they had both.
The Chazan still wouldn't give up the breitel. I don't care Korbanos, I don't care nothing. I have the breitel.
I don't know if there was some, it doesn't mean that it was exactly the same tefillah as we have, but they did daven some things. They did say a few things.
Okay, so the question is, did they say Havdalah? Did they say V'toydieni? For sure, the Gabbai wanted to clap it off, So ki salikna lahasam, but when I went there, I guess when I went to Bavel, Ashkechei solik means to go up or go down. That's what Ashkechei say. Ki salikna. When I ascended, so when I went up there to Yisrael. So when I went up there to Yisrael, Ashkechise LeYehuda Bered Rab Shimon ben Pazi. I met Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rab Shimon ben Pazi, the Yosevik Omar. He said that it's not unanimous, it's Rabbi Kiva. It's Rabbi Kiva of our Mishnah that says that Yom Kippur and Shabbos are the same. The Rabbi Shmuel, if it's going according to Rabbi Shmuel, who allows you to be maktir chalovim on Yom Kippur, the chalovim that were left over from Shabbos, Kivin de Omar, Chel ve Shabbos, Kraven b'Yom HaKippurim, since he said that the chalovim of Shabbos you are allowed to be makir at night on Yom Kippur, Liska, there's a very important reason why they should be blowing Motzoi Shabbos. There's a very important reason why they should be blowing in the afternoon of Yom Kippur when Shabbos comes in. Why? Kihechi de lahavi yadi de chel Shabbos craven b'Yom Kippur. In order that people should know that Shabbos, the kedusha of Shabbos, is a notch up from the kedusha of Yom Kippur. So if at the end of Yom Kippur, if Yom Kippur came out on a Friday, they would blow the shofar, that would make it clear in everyone's mind that Shabbos must be of a higher kedusha than Yom Kippur. And then in the future year, if Yom Kippur fell out on a Matzah Shabbos, they would know that you're allowed to be maktir the chalavim left over from Shabbos. So that's why Duvi.
Yeah,
that's why Duvi. It must be this must be when the Beis Mikdash was standing, because they want to make it clear that in the future year you could be maktir the chalavim from Shabbos that got left over to Yom Kippur.
As far as blowing the shofar is concerned, that's not a derisa, and as far as Rabbanan ain't shvus b'migdash, right? So
the shaila wasn't whether or not you're violating Shabbos to blow the shofar or violating Kippur. The question is, blowing the shofar always indicated that a greater kedusha was arriving. So the reason why you wouldn't have blown it when it was Motzoi Shabbos going into Yom Kippur, because a greater kedusha wasn't arriving. But the fact that you blow it, Yom Kippur is on a Friday going into Shabbos, is because you're indicating that Shabbos is in fact a greater kedusha.
So nothing at all to do with an Isser Shabbos or Yom Tov.
Correct. Just a question of whether we want to indicate that the coming kedusha is greater. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, you would want to indicate that the coming kedusha is greater, that the kedusha of Shabbos is greater, so that in future years, if Yom Kippur fell out on Friday, we would know that I'm sorry, in this year where Yom Kippur came out on Friday, you'll blow the shofar to herald the arrival of Shabbos, which is a greater kedusha, so that in future years, when Yom Kippur fell out on Sunday, we would know that Yom Kippur is a smaller kedusha, and therefore you're able to be maktir the chalavim that were left over from Shabbos. That's what the Rabbi Yehuda said, the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. And I told him that wouldn't be necessary. If the whole purpose of blowing the shofar on this Yom Kippur, which is Erev Shabbos, is so that in a future year, the Kahanim should know that they can be maktir chelev on Motzoi Shabbos, if it's Yom Kippur, that wouldn't be necessary. Because Kahanim is reasoning. They know the halachas, and you don't need to give them reminders. Amrle Markeshisha, Bered Rav Gifter, Rav Ashi. Miyam Reason, Kahanim is reasoning. Do we actually say that Kahanim are reason and they don't have to be reminded? Rashi says, Bekina and Bechoil, the Ein, Tzrich, and Sivan, and they don't need any reminders. Dechsiv Bahem, Yoru Mishputech L'Yakov, if they're going to teach us, I'll prove to you otherwise. Vatnan, Shalosh, When they blew the shofars in the Beis Hamikdash, they blew 3 to stop people from doing malacha, which was a little bit earlier than the actual Zman, and shalosh lahavdil ben kodesh l'chol. So what does Rashi say? Gimel lahavdil l'mani lahu b'tekiyah sheba mikdash. They were counted amongst the tekiyahs that were blown in the Beis Hamikdash. Ein person michaf alaf tekiyahs b'mikdash. There were 21 tekiyahs. V'kasal kadaitach miditakiyinin lu b'mikdash lekeret kehanim takilu. If we're talking about tekiyahs that were blown in the mikdash, it must be that it's for the kehanim. And you see that they had to blow lahaftil asa'amim malacha. So how could you tell me that kehanim don't need reminders? Here they had to blow in the Beis Hamikdash. If they're blowing in the Beis Hamikdash, they're blowing for the people of the Beis Hamikdash. They're blowing for the kehanim. And you see that they needed a reminder. So tomorrow, no. They weren't blowing for the benefit of the kehanim. They were blowing for the benefit of the Yisraelim that were in Yerushalayim that would have heard it. So who are done over here? Hakanami, we could say that they're blowing l'shar Amar to Yerushalayim. They're blowing for the other people of Yerushalayim, and therefore, in fact, it's not a steer. Kehanim reason name. They don't need reminders, and the shofar that they're blowing there was for the other people in Yerushalayim. Now, what Abai was talking about was the Helene Hamalka donated some golden netting that would reflect the sun's light, and the Gemara tells us that it would reflect the sun's light to remind people that now is Zman Krishma. And the Gemara asks, the Kaihanim, they didn't say Krishma Bismanoi, they were busy doing the Avodah. By the time they said Krishma, it was past Zman Krishma. And the Gemara says, in fact, the reflection of the sun in that golden device was only to remind the rest of Klal Yisrael to say Krishma. It wasn't for the Kehanim. So just like Abaye said, look at that golden thing, that it was not made for the Kehanim, even though it was in the Beis Hamikdash, it was for other people of Yerushalayim. Hachanami, when you're talking about blowing the shofar on the Erev Shabbos to stop people from doing malacha, even though it was done in the Beis Hamikdash, it was not necessarily targeted at the Kehanim, rather it was targeted at the Yisraelim. V'liska kihechi deledi tishari bekniva sierek menemincho l'mayla. Maybe there's another reason why you should blow shofar to announce Shabbos, the arrival of Shabbos, even though today's Yom Kippur, is to show us that Shabbos has a greater kedusha, and therefore next year on Yom Kippur alone, they'll remember that Yom Kippur is not as chomer as Shabbos, and there was a kula that was said on Yom Kippur, that min ha-mincha l'mayla, Yom Kippur in the afternoon, you were allowed to start cleaning or chopping, to show what it means, or peeling off the bad leaves from vegetables to start preparing them for Matzah Yom Tov. That's an issue d'Rabbanan, and on Yom Kippur it was allowed. So maybe the reason why they had to blow shofar was to show a distinction between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, so that we should know that Kniva She'erik is allowed on Yom Kippur, although it's not allowed on Shabbos. And Rashi tells us, why would they allow food preparation on Yom Kippur, which we don't allow? Why would we do it? So Rashi says, the Hava Inui, the Shorim Mishum the Hava Inui, it enhances the Inui of Yom Kippur. Shiroyim Mezamin, you see the food, you're working with the food, yet you can't eat it. So it's allowed on Yom Kippur because it doesn't make the Inui easier, it actually makes the Inu harder. And that's why the Chachamim allowed it. So maybe that's the reason why they blew. Zok Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yosef levishein doichin shvus lahatir. We're not doichin shvus. So now it talks about blowing is a shvus. So up until now, I said that the question of blowing wasn't a shaila of whether it's allowed or not. But now we're talking about that it is a shvus. So now the Gemara introduces that kiyas shofar is a shvus. It is a shvus. Yet you're not going to blow the shofar to announce a kula. Why do we blow the shofar? To tell you that a greater kedusha is coming. There's chomer. To blow the shofar so that next year people will know a kula of Yom Kippur, that you're allowed to chopped vegetables, we would never be mater a shvus to teach us a kula. If the kula was immediately occurring after I blew shofar, maybe then they would still be mater a shvus to teach us a kula halacha. But shvus rechaika lo yitiru. Think about it. Here we're blowing shofar on Yom Kippur to herald the incoming of Shabbos, which is a greater kedusha. Today, I'm not allowed to chop those vegetables. It's only going to be relevant next year Yom Kippur to chop those vegetables. And therefore, we won't allow you to blow shofar today so that in a later year, you'll be able to chop vegetables. And the reason why this year they're not going to chop vegetables is because tonight is Shabbos. We're talking about when Yom Kippur was Erev Shabbos. When tonight is Shabbos, on Yom Kippur you can't chop vegetables because they didn't eat those vegetables raw. They were preparing those vegetables to cook into a vegetable soup. Since tonight is Shabbos, they cannot cook that vegetable soup. So this year, they wouldn't be allowed to chop vegetables because they can't use those vegetables tonight. So the whole reason why we're blowing shofar now is to show us that Yom Kippur is not as holy as Shabbos, so that next year, when Yom Kippur falls out on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, next year they'll chop vegetables. You don't blow shofar today to teach us about a kula that might happen in a later year. But are you saying that if it was just to teach us a kula, but the kula was coming right now, they would have allowed us to violate the Rabbanon and blow a shofar? But now we learned Yom Tov Shechali is Erev Shabbos. If Yom Tov fell out on a Friday, the halach is taken. You blow shofar to announce the oncoming of Shabbos, but v'loy mavdilim. You don't make Havdalah because Shabbos is a greater kedusha than Yom Tov. But Motzoi Shabbos, if Yom Tov fell out on Motzoi Shabbos, mavdilim. There we say a mavdil ben kodesh l'kodesh, but v'loy taken. You don't blow shofar to announce the incoming of Yom Tov because Yom Tov is a lesser kedusha than Shabbos. Frek the Gemara, v'amai liska. You should blow shofar to announce the arrival of Yom Tov even on Shabbos. So again, if Yom Tov falls out on the Motzoi Shabbos, we should be blowing the shofar Shabbos in the afternoon to announce the arrival of Yom Tov. Why? Because we have to announce a kula. The lady is shari b'shchita altar, so that people will know that Yom Tov is coming. It's a lesser kedusha, and you're allowed to shecht on Yom Tov. They're allowed to prepare food on Yom Tov. So if you hold that you would blow shofar, even though it's an issue Rabbanon, if it's announcing an imminent kula, well then why don't we blow shofar every time Yom Tov falls out on the Motzei Shabbos? We should blow shofar Shabbos afternoon to announce that Yom Tov is coming and people will be allowed to shecht animals later on. Ella, you see from here that we never allow you to blow shofar to announce a kula, only to announce a chomer. El Mechaber de Rabbi Yosef, who said earlier that we never blow a shofar unless it's to announce a chomer, never to announce a kula. If Yom Kippur fell out on Shabbos, also b'kenivas yerek, you're not allowed to prepare these vegetables. Amar Rav Mona, Tana, we learned, how do you know that if Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare these vegetables? Tabadomer Shabbosoin. Rashi learns this that the Raisa, Tosfos learns it's only an asmach to Ba'alma. Shabbosoin. It says Yom Shvi Shabbos Shabbosoin. Let's see the pasuk inside. Yom Aleim Hula Shadibar Hashem Shabbosoin Shabbos Kodesh Lashon Machar. This was in the Midbar. This was the first Shabbos that the Rebbe Shalom announced, and he said Shabbos and Shabbos Kodesh. So from the extra Shabbos, we learn that it's also b'knivas here. Shabbos and Shavuos. Lamai. If this pasuk is talking about knivas hayerek, which would be a deraisa, meaning you're cutting down a vegetable that's growing from the ground, we don't need a pasuk to tell us that. The Torah already says you're not allowed to do a malacha, and cutting down something that's growing is a malacha deraisa. And a lava must be referring to something that's not a summa deraisa, meaning the vegetable was already harvested, it's already cut, and now you're just trimming it further, which is not a deraisa. The pasuk is teaching us that knivas yerek would not be allowed on Shabbos. Shema Mida. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Yom HaKippurim shechol yos b'Shabbos. If Yom Kippur fell out on Shabbos, muter b'knives yerek. So he argues on what we just said. Meis v'efek Gemara. Minayin liyom HaKippurim shechol yos b'Shabbos she'asu b'knives yerek. Talmid Chocohom Shabbos on Shvus. Lemai. What is it talking about? Ilayin lemalacha. If it's talking about a deraisa of cutting something down that's growing, I don't need this extra Shabbos to teach us that because v'aksiv lo sasakol malacha. Elalav b'knives yerek. It must be talking about knives yerek. And therefore, you have a raya from here that you're not allowed to prepare those vegetables on Shabbos. Really, it's talking about when the Torah says Shvus to say that Knivus Yerek is usher, it means Knivus Yerek that's growing from the ground. So it's a malacha deraisa. You asked me why do I need Shabbos on? I already have the pasuk of L'Sasakol Malacha. The pasuk is telling us that if you do Knivus Yerek, not only will you be over the L'Sasakol of L'Sasakol Malacha, you'll also be over an extra say. Tanya Kavos Rabbi Yochanan, we actually learned a brayta that supports Rabbi Yochanan that it's a mutter b'knivus yerek, because it says Yom HaKippurim shechol yos b'Shabbos mutter b'knivus yerek. Knivus yerek is going to be mutter. V'amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan Yom Kippurim shechol yos b'choil. Yom Kippur that fell out during the week. Mefatzim be'agoyzim. You're allowed to break open nuts. U'mefachas be'rimonim. You're allowed to break open pomegranates. Min hamicha u'lamayla b'pnei agmas nefesh. In the afternoon, you're allowed to do it because of Agmas Nefesh. Rashi learns that handling food creates a bigger inui. But there are those who argue in Rashi and learn you're allowed to do it because otherwise there'll be a delay in eating Motzei Yom Tov and it's going to cause too much pain. So we allow you to prepare the food a little bit on Yom Tov itself. The Rabbi Yehuda, the house of Rabbi Yehuda, Makli Karba, they would clean off the karba vegetable. A kruv is a cabbage, I think. The Rabba Gordi Kari, they would clean out a kari. I don't know what type of vegetable that is. Let's see if the article says what it is. The kari is a pumpkin. They would clean out pumpkins. But even the chaza, the avik mechorfi, once they saw that people were starting already earlier than mina mincha l'mayla to prepare food, they realized that this is getting out of hand and they have to stop it. Amalahu, they were afraid if they would just say we no longer allow it, people wouldn't listen to them. So they lied and they said, "Asa igritim in my rava mishmeid Rabbi Yochanan." The asir. A letter came in, even though a letter didn't come in. They made up a story that Reb Shach Paskin, Rabbi Yashiv Paskin, that you're not allowed to do it, even though that never happened. They made it up in order to get people to listen. And it's brought down the halacha that if a person needs to get a message across, he's allowed to quote it from a great person, even though that great person never said it, to make sure that people will accept it. If you go to Hasidic shuls, you see kids on Shabbos and Yom Kippur, they play with nuts. They have these games, they play with nuts. And that minig of children playing with nuts comes from this mefatzim be'agoyzim. And still today, Hasidic kids, they play with nuts in shul on Shabbos and Yom Kippur. We finished the parak. We made another siyum on another volume of Art Scroll. Just like we finished this chelik of Art Scroll, we should be zocheh to finish many more chalakim of Art Scroll. A little more the lamed list for Velasquez.
How did you
get on the? Today's the anniversary of the hostage taking in Entebbe. Is that how you got?
Not the hostage taking. A couple of days ago was the anniversary of the hostage taking. Today's anniversary of the hostages being freed.
No,
that's the Hebrew calendar.
Maybe the Hebrew calendar.
Yeah,
July 3rd, July 4th.
No, I'm talking about the Hebrew calendar.
Oh.
On the Hebrew calendar.
So I looked up the dates. It was they left Motzei Shabbos from Sharm el Sheikh.
They left Entebbe.
No,
they left to attack.
The cabinet approved the operation at 6:30 in the afternoon on Shabbos. In Yerushalayim, Shabbos ended about 7 o'clock, and CHOCHOM in Yerushalayim was 7:30. So, but they left from Sharm el Sheikh. They weren't in Yerushalayim. They weren't in Israel proper. They left from Sharm el Sheikh. So, approximately Motzei Shabbos. And they arrived in Entebbe at just before midnight, local time.
Motzei Shabbos. So we wouldn't have known about it till Sunday morning. So I guess I guess it was the following Shabbos that I remember the Olam tumbling about it.
If
Unless-
I remember
'cause
correctly,
They're 7 hours ahead.
yeah, they sent them on the mission. They didn't have cabinet approval yet, but they
A
said,
takeoff.
"You go."
A takeoff, they didn't have approval.
They didn't have approval yet, but he said we have to go in order to make it happen. To arrive at midnight, we have to leave or at least be part of the way there. That's why they went, and I think they landed in Sharm el-Sheikh, and then they continued the rest of the journey.
Where's
So-
Sharm el-Sheikh?
That's at the lower corner.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Now this belongs, unfortunately, to Egypt.
Oh,
At
that was
time,
that was
it
when
belonged
Israel
to
still
Sinai.
controlled the Sinai.
Right.
It's the tip of the Sinai, right at the edge there.
Near Eilat, not so far from Eilat.
Right.
That's interesting. Mhm.
They went with, I think, 5 Hercules airplanes that were
Plus,
so
they were
overloaded.
accompanied for a while, but with the Israeli fighter craft to accompany them. They did what do you call it? Accompanying him on the way, right? Not Seder L'derech, but Levia,
They had
right?
they stripped down those planes so bad because they were so heavy. They had so much gear loaded into it. They had to strip it down of everything else. They were like sitting ducks, and they barely
I
got
get
off
off
the
the chair.
runway. They barely were able
Get
to
off the
lift
chair.
off. They were so heavy. But Israel always pushes things to the limit.
This is Bibi Netanyahu's older brother.
Yeah, Yonatan got
No.
killed.
Got killed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a glorious time. Okay,
So that's what I'm
Shkoyach,
saying.
Rabbi
Yossi was Sunday morning.
said.
You
I was
knew
wrong.
about it Sunday morning.
So I must have remembered the Oilim tumbling about it in Shul the next Shabbos.
What was the tumult?
They were all excited about it, everyone
they're
was talking
excited.
about it.
So what was the machlokus between Satmar and Lubavitch?
That was, I think, the beginning of the fight, because the Rebbe called it an open nace on behalf of Jews.
Uh-huh.
Satmar
The
believed
Satmar
that
said there was a Sitra Achra.
Sitra Achra, they wouldn't be a miracle for the Zionist entity.
Uh-huh.
It wouldn't be such a miracle. And the Rebbe kept pushing the how miracles of Entebbe, what it means to Eretz Yisrael, what it means to is Jewish morale. By the way, I looked up what the Zoom, get a load of this, Victor, on June Wednesday, which was Dalet Tammuz, Chabad hosted a Zoom meeting, 45,000 devices.
Wow.
Made 100,000 people tuned in. And they didn't want it to be webinar style where you don't see people. They wanted the Fabrengen style where people can see each other. So they had large screens set up so everybody can see how many people are logged in. So it was 45 Zoom rooms.
Mm-hmm.
They had 45 Zoom rooms, and I guess each room had one applied to whatever the screen share was,
Mm-hmm.
right? They had tons of Zoom was working on it regularly.
They didn't crash the system.
They didn't. They must have not used Wi-Fi and internet and gone directly to the cell, because they also had to broadcast video. They were also broadcasting live from the oil. They had singers. They had acapellas. There was a huge thing going on.
But
Did
there
it
was
say
one
the
thing
record?
that
Did it
was
say the
very
That's the record. You can
noticeably
look it up.
missing.
Zoom Chabad. What's that?
There's one thing that was noticeably missing from that presentation.
What?
Akiva at APC.
Just the,
That's right. They didn't call me those.
No, if they're going to want to up, they probably wanted to leave room to up their game, so they could say next year we have something even bigger planned.
That's right. No, they really did a job.
Are we learning Tanya?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, I'll be back in 1 second, so you can start. I'll be right back.
Victor, last night my Wi-Fi was down.
Yeah, mine too. I think the whole neighborhood was down.
Right.
I messaged them, yeah.
So
You're on Rogers?
So I was in Rogers. Guess who had a plan B? Plugged in his Rocket Hub.
I called in from my phone. I used the LTE.
Right. I saw online somebody already highlighted that there's a problem in this area. Let me see if I can share screen.
All right. Did you daven Nate's?
Yeah, you have to go soon, right? Yeah, if you have to go, you have to go. I'm gonna 2 minutes, 5 minutes. We'll go.
See if Yossi's awake.
I was reading the technological stuff on this Zoom meeting that Chabad pulled together. I mean, it's amazing stuff. They had a lot of people working in the background to make sure it stayed loaded, and there's a lot going on.
Did they set a record for the largest Zoom meeting?
I think so. Okay, we were discussing last time when you thought about the greatness of God, it boiled down to three different traits. The first one is Memale Kol Ha'olmin, that he fills the world with his energy, similar to the way a guf fills in the Shama. Soivev Kol Ha'olmin is that he's also outside whatever exists, and that's really the source of the energy for what comes in inside. And the last one is that all this creation, kulei kamei kulei chashuv, all the worlds, Bria, Yetzira, Asir, even the spiritual worlds are like him, like nothing. Eventually we'll get to the description of what it means nothing to him, but not unlike the ray of sun that's in the sunlight. Here, a ray of sun seems to do so much. It grows vegetation, it provides us warmth, it gives us life. It can do so much, but in its source, if you pull that ray of sun that hits the earth back to the source of the sun, it really does very little. It's considered as if nothing. You'd never be able to find that ray of light that lights here. So that also considers it to nothing. How does that apply, though, to impacting our fear and love of Hashem? That's where we're getting to go now into the various levels of what it means to fear Hashem. Not just, oh my God, he's great, but once we internalize the concept of his greatness, how does that impact the fear? Nolda v'nisara midas yiras haroimimus b'moichoyu machshavtoi liroi lisboishesh migdulasa yisbarach she'en lasoi v'tachlis. When you think about the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you internalize it, and like we said, that you have to internalize it over and over again like a muscle, because the muscle, by default, its factory setting is to push back and say, I can't understand this God's greatness, and not to think about it. But you have to keep being misbeinen and keep working that into your daily thought routine, if you will, about the greatness of God. What's going to happen is that you're eventually going to develop fear from God. What is that? What kind of fear? Once the concept of the greatness of Hashem is absorbed in the mind of a human who you'll all of a sudden develop a feeling of the fear of the greatness or the exaltness of God, because true fear should really be developed in your thought, not in your heart, the kind that he's bigger than me and just punishment. Eventually it'll come to the heart too. But the heart, remember, we want ideally to develop love. What is the fear that you're going to develop once you internalize the greatness of Hashem? There's a few levels in the Yiras Hashem. Yeshna Yiras Einish. There's the basic primal fear. I mean, God's bigger than me. He's going to beat me up. I'm going to do a sin. What's going to happen? A lightning bolt is going to strike me. That's one level. You're just afraid he's your boss. You're going to get fired from your job. Above that primal of being fear that God is bigger than you, there's the fear of the sin itself. You're already past that fearing the punishment. What you're doing, isn't right, because you're rebelling, if you will, against Hashem by committing this sin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want you to do this, and you go ahead and do it. But even above that, that's usually where it ends. Normative thought about fear from Hashem is either yiras ha'inish or yiras ha'chet, fear of the punishment and year of the chet. Why would you want to do something against HaKadosh Baruch Hu? But we drill down deeper. L'mal mizeh yiras haroimimus, sheyira pnimis. This is an internal fear. Shetoichna hisbatlus legabi roimus Hashem. It's complete. You feel like nothing compared to the greatness of Hashem. Not the ones that's going to stop you from fearing or punishing. That already, as we developed earlier, that a Beinoni doesn't sin anyway. But what's the emotion that gets created within you once you realize the greatness of Hashem? All of a sudden, you realize I'm really nothing. If you think of the greatness of Hashem, you realize I'm so insignificant compared to him. Forget already in the next therefore I shouldn't sin, and therefore he's going to beat me up. Hashem is so powerful and so mighty, I'm not a blip on the radar. We've used this matter before. You're standing in front of a great person, a great sage, and we're going to assume this tzaddik gadol v'kodesh, like we said in today's daf, knows all the Gemara, not just a few blat masech that he's learning. It's a knee knocker. You're in so much fear and in so much awe that your knees are shaking. It's not that you're going to go stand there and pull out your t-shirt that says, "Long live Elvis." That wasn't the point, that you're going to do something embarrassing. Simply, you just feel insignificant compared to the holiness and the greatness of the person in front of you. This year is called embarrassment. That you have fear and you have shame. Not the shame that you're embarrassed to do a chet. You're embarrassed to do something disgusting in front of others, and especially in front of someone great. This is not the translation of embarrassment. Elabusha b'muvan shemargish atzmoi k'moibirya shfala noichich dulasay v'rumaysay yizbarach. She'eno toves mokum klal lefanev yizbarach masher me'achar she'dulasay en lasay v'tachlis. You're standing in front of somebody who's infinite. How do you, in your finite, stand in front of him? It's like embarrassing. I can't even be on the same room as this person, as the same room as this fellow. You realize that you're small. In front of somebody who knows it all, who has complete knowledge of everything, and you're, with your itsy bitsy knowledge, think you're standing in front of them. You realize whatever you have accomplished, whatever you know, is insignificant. And not to be embarrassed by it, simply by the nature of it. The person in front of me is great. He's accomplished. He's done so much. What am I in front of him? If I stood in front of Bill Gates in the room and we compared bank accounts, what am I going to feel like? I'm not a blip on his radar. Let's go partners, right?
No, you could say you have more room in yours than he has in his.
I have room for growth. He doesn't have any more room for growth. My mutual fund is going to do more. So the idea is to try to develop this feeling of, forget about fear of sin and forget about the fear that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to hit you a lightning bolt. When you think of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you think about how insignificant you really are compared to his greatness. That doesn't mean put yourself down. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have any kind of self-esteem. But the idea first is to realize the greatness of Hashem, and therefore putting you where you believe. And then tomorrow we'll analyze with Pachad Hashem believe boy, how do you have the fear inside into your heart? First with the knowledge.
Akiva, I feel you misstated the machlokes between the Satmar Rebbe and the Lubavitcher Rebbe about Entebbe. Really what happened is, when they were in that black limo, that Mercedes limo, they had to disguise themselves as Amin and his soldiers because they were trying to come in clandestinely.
Right.
So they wore blackface. And it was that the Satmar Rebbe was protesting. The fact that the Israelis the whole mission lost its beauty because they had to resort to blackface to do it.
I think that they remade the Entebbe movie now because when the Entebbe first happened,
and they whitened the faces.
No, I don't know what they did now,
Whitewashing.
but they did a certain amount. From what I understand, that this version was not as flattering to the Israelis as much as the first versions were back in the 70s with Charles Bronson, and Hollywood really glamorized the Israelis' victory. But I think now they watered it down a little bit. That was the review I read on it. It came out 2 years ago, Victor. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they try to change history again, just like now they're knocking down all the statues.
There's a very interesting secular movie that runs in parallel with the victory of Entebbe. And I forgot what it's called, but it was about a guy who became the doctor of Idi Amin. He became his doctor, and he was like a doctor without borders type of guy who was volunteering to help the people. And then Idi Amin found out about him and hired him as his personal doctor. And his friends told him, don't do it. He's a wild man, don't work for him. And he ended up doing chesed with some of the wives of Idi Amin. He did what the Torah calls chesed with them. And he was caught.
Who the doctor did?
Yes, and the wives would confide in him and they also didn't like being with Idi Amin. Idi Amin was a wild man, and what Idi Amin did to him in the airport itself, he caught him in the airport. He was running away. He was trying to run away. They caught him in the airport, and the Idi Amin actually hung him off a meat hook in the airport, and he was dying. And what happened was the Idi Amin allowed all the goyim on the Air France flight to go back. He only kept the Jewish hostages. So they actually had a plane that was going back to France. Could be Air France had another plane to pick up the non-Jewish passengers to take them home. He got smuggled. This doctor got smuggled onto that plane. So in the plot of that movie, there was also, as a sidebar, there was the hostage taking going on. But the focus of that movie was not on the hostage taking. It was on his story, this doctor's story, how he got out.
So the doctor got caught or didn't get caught?
He got caught by Idi Amin, but Idi Amin's own people, who were the executioners, threw him on, let him go on the plane.
Oh,
they figured he went through enough.
Said you put him on the meat hook.
They put him on the meat hook, and then they took him off the meat hook and threw him on the plane, injured. They also said, I just read today on a Lubavitcher website that blows my mind, that the staff, the crew of the Air France flight, the captain said, I'm not going to go. I'm staying with my people. And all of the cabin crew, the stewardesses stayed as well. When they got back to France, after it was over, they were suspended for violating Air France policy. They were punished because of it. It's lo yu'min ki yisapar. I know the pilot was considered a hero all the years. I think he's not alive anymore. But when he died, they made a big thing about him in Israel. But the fact that Air France sanctioned their employees for doing the honorable thing and staying with the Israeli hostages.
When have the French ever done anything that's honorable?
I know. I was.
That's what, they were shocked. What are you doing? We're supposed to capitulate. We're supposed to surrender. What are you doing? You violated French policy. Okay, I got to run to Minion.
Okay.
I
didn't know that. Yossi Eshkech, I was going to ask you about it because that's a big thing in the movie. Is the pilots say we're staying with our passengers.
That's right.
The very emotional moment. They're saying we're staying. You're separating. We're staying. He says you're free to go. He says we're not. We're all staying together. And the captain stayed, and he was one of the ones who got off the plane in the beginning, right? He was really. I didn't realize. So Air France suspended them.
Yeah, I have a website that gives me. It's called Torah Tots. Let me open it up again. It's called Torah Tots, and it's a Lubavitcher website. It always tells me what's happening in history. So I'm pretty sure it's a Lubavitcher website, even though they wrote about the Shnei Sheretzeit. It's called Time Capsule, TorahTots.com. Excuse me. And I believe it's a Lubavitcher website. And it goes through the events every single day in history. It's very, very interesting. So on today, which is 6 Sivan, 6 Tammuz, it actually says that they were sanctioned. This is Maval al-Harayim for violating policy. Let me see what it says. I'll actually read it exactly as they wrote it. It's a very interesting yard There are Rottenberg yard this week. This looks serious stuff going on. 6 Tammuz.
This doesn't look like a Lubavitcher website.
Yeah, this is July 4th, 1976. And it says all the way at the end, amazingly, the flight crew all voluntarily chose to stay with the Jewish captives rather than be released. Upon the return to Paris, they were reprimanded by Air France executives and temporarily suspended from duty.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Only in France, like Victor says, only in France.
I had once an ad in, you can stop the YouTube. I should have added this. I had an ad in Perspective right before